Omicron. Uh, so again, there's a spike of people hospitalized or needing treatment. Ang problema lang kasi decontamination is so uh, parang aggressive, very fast. And in a short while, nakita natin nag-shoot up ang mga ospital. Ang problema nito, yung isolation preparation natin done a year ago. We can only revive them if they are still existing, same preparations that we did initially. So may I, para makinig lang tayo, I am no expert. I am here to listen to people who know ang trabaho na ito. It belongs to them. This is a realm of medical issues. I can only listen. But I have to call first the secretary. What is happening? We cannot control it? Impossible. That's what I said before. Whether we like it or not, Omicron will visit us in due time. So pakinggan natin ngayon, nandiyan naman si Secretary Duque to give us what's happening on the ground. Secretary Duque.
Good evening. Yes, good evening, Mr. President.
Good evening.
And to my fellow cabinet members, Senator Bongo and PS Madi Aldea, and all the other officials who are in attendance, and higit po sa lahat ang ating pong mga kababayan. Bago po akong magbigay ng updates dun sa ating COVID-19 response and the Omicron variant, ibig ko lang pong ipakilala muli ang ating pong mga panel of experts na pinangungunahan po ni Dr. Edsel Salvania, si Dr. Ana Ong Lim, si Dr. Marisa Alejandria, and si Dr. John Wong. Hindi na po sila naiba sa atin dahil madalas po natin silang inaanyayahan tuwing may mga issues katulad itong mga variants of concern para ibahagi sa atin at sa ating po mga kababayan ang pinakahuling mga kaalaman at mga datos patungkol po sa nagbabadyang Omicron variant. Mamaya po, matapos po ako magbigay ng madaling National COVID Situationer, ay sisigundahan po ng ating po mga panel of experts. Si Dr. Maurice Salvania ay kanya pong ipapaliwanag at kaklaruhin yung impormasyon na kumakalat na yung pong pagre-retiro ng CDC 2019 novel coronavirus RT-PCR test na mukhang nagdudulot ng kalituhan ay magbibigyan po siya ng paglilinaw patungkol po sa issue na ito. Samantalang si Dr. John Wong naman po ay magbabahagi ng kanya pong mga kaalaman, nakalap na mga impormasyon na credible information at papaliwanag po niya kung ano po ang mga dahilan dito po sa atin nararanasan holiday surge. So dalawa po ang magbabahagi sa atin ng kanilang presentation matapos pong ibigay ko ang updates. So first slide please, with your permission, Mr. President. Unang slide.
Yes.
First slide please. Thank you. So muli, mag-uumpisa po ako doon sa mga pangunahin na mensahe, Mr. President. At ito po ngayong linggo ang ibig po namin ibahagi sa lahat. Una, alam natin na mas transmissible ang Omicron variant sa original at mga naunang variant na nakapasok sa ating bansa. In fact, ang Omicron variant ay mas nakakahawa ng 4 na beses kaysa po sa Delta variant. Kaya naman, napaka-critical na atin na mapaiksi ang intervals ng pagsasagawa ng ating contact tracing, testing, and isolation upang mapigilan natin ang lalong pagkalat nito. Pangalawa po, bagamat mas nakakahawa ang Omicron variant, ipinakita ng mga pag-aaral na nananatiling epektibong panangga ang ating pong kasalukuyang bakuna laban sa nasabing variant. Kaya naman hinihikayat namin ang lahat na magpabakuna upang maprotektahan ang inyong mga sarili at mga kasama sa bahay. Pangatlo po at huli, atin pong nasasaksihan nitong nakaraan na holiday season na naging mabilis matulin ang pagkalat ng COVID-19 dahil sa mga social gatherings. Tumaas po yung social mobility, yung pagkahalubilo ng mga tao, ay ito po ay tumaas. At dahil sa patuloy na pagtaas ng kaso nitong mga nakaraang araw, nananawagan po kami na isuspindi muna ang lahat ng mga mass gatherings. Kasama po dito ang darating na pagdiriwang ng traslasyon. Piliin po natin makilahok dito sa ating mga bahay na lamang upang maiwasan ang pagkahawa at pagpasa ng sakit. Maliban sa mga mass gatherings, kung maaari, piliin po natin ang alternatibong pamamaraan o work arrangements at pagsasagawa ng mga meetings at iba pang mga activities. Gawin na lamang po online. Next slide. Sunod na slide, please. By the way, Mr. President, I am in quarantine since I got exposed to my staff who tested positive last Friday. So bukas po magpapatest ako and hopefully negative. But I'll be under quarantine until the 8th or 10 days in all. Next slide, please.
Are you all right? May lagnat ka.
So far, I'm okay, Mr. President. Wala naman po akong sintomas.
Wala pa.
Next slide, please. Wala pa, sir. Knock on the wood. Sana wala po.
Huwag kang magsakit-sakit na kasi mawalaan tayo ng general dito sa health issues.
Yes, sir. Awan ng Diyos, mukhang wala pa naman po ang sintomas, Mr. President. Next slide, please. Ayaw gumalaw yung slide natin. Sira ba? Anyway, ituloy ko na lang, Mr. President, no? Para naman sa atin usual COVID-19 updates. Ngayon, January 4, bagong taon, may nadagdag po na naman tayo ng 5,434 na bagong kaso. Talaga pong mataas at mabilis ang pagsipa ng mga kaso, Mr. President. At sa 5,434 na naidagdag sa ating mga kaso, 3,849 ay mula sa NCR. Pinakamataas po ay NCR. Sunod ang Region 4A na 868 ang kanya pong naiambag sa ating total caseload. At ang Region 3 sumunod at 339 at 378 naman sa mga natitirang rehiyon. Para naman sa ating mga aktibong kaso, ang bilang ngayon, ika-4 na Enero, ay nasa 29,809 o katumbas mo nito ay mahigit 1% ng ating mga kabuuan kaso. Ang ating recoveries naman ay umabot na sa 2.779 million, thereabouts, at ang ating recovery rate ay nasa mataas na 97.15%, habang ang bilang ng mga namatay o pumanaw ay nasa 51,604 at ang ating pong case fatality rate ay nananatili sa 1.8%. Ang ating naman positivity rate ay kasalukuyang nasa 14.1%. Ito ay sumipa din, Mr. President, dahil nung mga nakaraan na linggo ay less than 5% po tayo ng positivity rate. At from December 27 to January 2 ito na nga po ang malinaw na
Good evaluation.
pagtaas ng ating positivity rate. Samantalang RT-PCR testing output po natin ay nasa kasalukuyang 29,000 tests kada araw. So kailangan mapataas pa ang ating pong testing output. Ang capacity naman ng ating testing ay umaabot na sa 90 to 100,000 per day. At huli, tumataas ang ating national utilization rates, 24% para sa bed utilization rate, 26% naman para sa ICU beds, at 14% para sa mechanical ventilators. Ang pagtaas na ito ay talagang sadyang mas nakikita po sa bandang National Capital Region. Sunod na slide naman po, next slide, Secretariat. Sa nakalipas na linggo, from December 29 to January 4, next slide, nakapagtala po tayo ng 3,313 average daily cases. Mas mataas po ito ng halos 9 times kumpara sa atin pong naitalang 349 average daily cases noong December 22 hanggang December 28. So ayan, makikita po natin sa slide nito sa bandang dulo. Yan, makikita natin yung graph, kulay blue. Yan po ang kinakatawan niya ng NCR. Malaki pong bahagi ay nasa NCR po. Almost 70% ng mga kaso bago ay galing po sa NCR. So ayan po, nakikita natin yung uptick ng ating pong mga cases. Next slide. Para naman po sa ating case trends, ang buong bansa ay nasa kasalukuyan 400 as a high risk ang ating pong risk ang classification ng buong Pilipinas. Ang buong bansa ay mayroon 448% 2-week growth rate or TWGR. Yan po pagkalampas 200%, talagang high risk na po ang kanyang classification. Yung pong 0% to 200% moderate risk. Yung pong bilang o ang porsyento ng taas ng kaso kung ito po ay katumba 0 or less than 0, which is a negative value, yan po ay low risk. Pero tayo po, malinaw, sa 448%, high risk po ang ating 2-week growth rate. At meron po tayong 1.66 average daily attack rate or ADAR. Ano po? At ito po ay although moderate risk classification, kung ibabangga po ito sa TWGR, ang kakalabasan po ay high risk. Kanya nag-escalate po tayo to said classification. Ang pinakamalaking pagtaas ng kaso naman ay nakita, as I've said, NCR, nasa kasalukuyang critical risk case, pinakamataas po na risk classification na meron po 1,475% 2-week growth rate at 8.79 ADAR. At nakikita rin na tayo nagpagtaas ng kaso sa regions 4A and 3. Ang region 4A ay kasalukuyang nasa high risk na may 557%. Ang taas din po dito ng kanyang growth rate at 1.6 na ADAR. Habang ang region 3 ay nasa moderate risk na may 339% TWGR and 0.91 ADAR. Ang mga natitirang riyon ay nananatiling nasa low at minimal risk case classification. Next slide. Dito po makikita natin. Next slide. Ang ating pong bed utilization rate, gaya ng nasabi ko kanina, nationally 24% at mas mataas ng 6 na puntos mula nung nakaraang linggo, habang ang ating ICU utilization rate ay kasalukuyan nasa 26%. Mas mataas ng 8 puntos kumpara noong nakaraang linggo. At ang ating pong mechanical ventilator utilization rate ay nasa 14%, mas mataas ng 4 points nung nakaraang linggo. So dito ho, malinaw, lahat halos tumaas ang kanila pong utilization rates from bed, ward, isolation, and ICU and mechanical ventilators. Lalo na po dito rin sa NCR. Tumaas ng 15 points yung kanilang bed utilization rate, habang 14 points naman ang kanilang ICU utilization rate. At Ito pong 10 rehiyon ay nagpakita rin po ng pagtaas ng kanilang utilization rates for beds and ICU. 11 regions ang nagpakita ng pagtaas at yung iba naman po ganun din ang MACVEDS ay may 8 rehiyon na tumataas. Kanya tulad ng amin pong nabanggit, ang pagbabakuna ang makapagbibigay proteksyon sa atin laban sa hospitalization at kamatayan dulot ng COVID-19. Kaya naman palalawigin palalo ng gobyerno ang ating pong COVID-19 vaccination program at hinihikayat namin ang publiko na samantalahin ito at
Okay lang na, ilayo ko
magparehistro
sa
upang
ilayo ko sa
makuha o makumpleto
layo ko sa
ang
mic.
inyong primary series pati na rin ang booster doses. Next slide. Ang ating pong death curve naman ay nananatiling bumababa, Mr. President. Sa kabila ng nakikita natin pagtaas ng mga kaso, isa itong patunay na epektibo talaga ang ating pong vaccination program laban sa COVID. At as of January 4 ay nakapagtala po lamang tayo ng 2 namatay. So sana magpatuloy na ganito lamang po na dahil nga marami na po ang nabakunahan, mamaya ipapakita ko po at bibigyan detalye ni Secretary Charlie Galvez at ni Secretary Vince Dizon ang ating po mga nakamit na patungkol po sa atin bakunahan. So next slide, dito po makikita nakapagbigay na tayo ng mahigit 109 milyon doses ng COVID-19 vaccines. Mahigit 61 milyon individual, thereabouts, no? Ang may first dose, habang mahigit 50 milyon naman ang individual dito ang fully vaccinated na. At nakapagbigay na rin po tayo ng booster sa halos 2 milyon na individual. So hanggang ngayon, ipapakita rin po, ibabahagi ng ating po mga experts na malaki pa rin po talaga ang kabutihan dulot ng ating po mga bakuna. And they remain to have a high rate of effectiveness, yung mga bakuna po natin laban sa Omicron variant. Meron po tayong mga humigit kumulang 81% na effectiveness rate. And against Delta, mga 85%. Kung makumpleto po yung bakuna at mabigyan ng booster doses. Yun po. So maganda pong kaalaman nito at impormasyon na ating pong nakalap kumakailan lamang. At mamaya ipapaliwanag din po ng ating mga eksperto. At huling pagbubuod, Mr. President, ang ating bansa ay kasalukuyang nasa high-risk case classification. Gaya ng sinabi ko, 849% ang pagtaas sa atin 7-day moving average of daily reported cases and 448% 2-week growth rate at 1.66 average daily attack rate and 13.4% positivity rate. Samantalang ang ating healthcare utilization rate ay asa 20% at ICU UR at 23%. Nakapagtala naman tayo ng 2 namatay sa unang 4 na araw ng Enero. So mababa po ito. Isa po ito sa ating pinakamababang naitala pagdating po sa mga na pumanaw. At huli, ating vaccination rate patuloy na tumataas na 69% halos ang ating target ang nakakuha ng first dose habang 57% naman ang fully vaccinated. So, ito lamang po ako magwawakas, Mr. President, at nakahanda na po akong sumagot sa inyo pong katanungan. Meron po tayong 2 expert na magbibigay po ng presentation with your permission, Mr. President.
Sabi ko na nga alam mo, to the listening public, kanyuira lang But yung mga tao na hindi pa nagpabakuna, without really, no offense sa inyo, pero which is the reality ever present in this situation, in the environment, malaki ang tsansa na pag mahawa ka, talagang mamatay ka. So, kukunti naman ang namamatay sa awa ng Diyos, hindi masyado marami. Pero may namamatay pa rin. Sigurado yan ng walang bakuna. Kaya kung mabakunado ka, I mean, there's a defense, however small, na yung bakuna original for COVID-19 is as good for all of the variants. And the variants are, the mutants are nagwawala. Ang mundo ay in a quandary. Lahat tinatamaan, including us. Sabi ko nga, any any development doon, may mutant na naman na sigurado. Yung nagpabakuna, pag hindi nagpapabakuna, kung tinamaan yon, the risk of dying this year, 2021, is nandyan. So, bahala kayo. Ngayon, kung maghingi kayo ng tulong sa akin, ay sabihin ko, hindi ako magtulong sa iyo. Kasi hindi ka nagpabakuna. Kung mabakuna ka na, wala na akong problema at saka wala ka ng problema. Ngayon, kung mamatay ka, o bahala ka sa sarili mo. Kung ayaw, puno na yung ospital ngayon by this time, the contamination is ever growing very fast. Ang defense lang natin, defense that's available to you is really the vaccine that you got earlier, which is the view of, I think, most of the doctors, that kung mabakunado ka, you will just feel a little bit of, hindi naman discomfort. Parang sickness, but it will not be really fatal dahil dyan sa bakuna. It's not because I do not buy the much less aggressive, whatever enters your body and interferes with your system, and you do not have the antibodies there because it's not available in your system, you will die, especially kung patungan ng secondary and whatever. Pneumonia yan ang kalaban mo dyan. So, pneumonia na serious, sabi ng mga doktor, inflamed respiratory system. So, yung hindi magpabakuna at nalaman ng mga barangay captain, sabihin na lang nila, huwag kang lumabas. At kung malabas ka, you'll be escorted. If you force the issue, I said, because the barangay captain is a person in authority, he can place you under arrest and daling ka sa istasyon. Doon ka sa mabaho na hindi ang istasyon, hindi masyado maganda ang hygiene ng yung jail. Doon na yung mga tao kasi umiihi, doon na rin dumi-dumi. May mga istasyon na walang, maniwala kayo. Kaya doon kayo ilagay ng, you will be arrested. And at least, I think the fiscal can hasten the proceedings by preliminary investigation na kaagad. At pagkatapos na kung i-file yan, you go to straight to jail. At ang masakit niyan, before you can work on anything, you'll suffer the sinasabi kong hindi na maganda na sitwasyon. Because not all public structures are really, it's not the best, the best shelter to be there. I'd like to call first si Dr. John Wong. Can you give us the insights of the surge, the holidays? Will this this will the additional restrictions of converging of people and crowding and that not really obeying the distancing rule. Uh, ano ho ang nakuha ninyo judging from what's happening now? Dr.
Right.
Wong?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I have a short presentation, if I may be allowed to present it.
Yeah.
I think I can answer some of your questions with that presentation also. Thank you. So, so here are my recommendations no, on the holiday surge that we're experiencing now. No? We need to administer the vaccination program efficiently, meaning vaccinate those uh, population groups that will yield the greatest benefit. Meaning, these are people whose hospitalization can be prevented or whose lives may be saved by vaccination. So it's in this order, no? The benefit: elderly, other vaccinated, and then boosters. And then this month, we have several super spreader events no, that are coming up. No? And this crowding, no, close contact, no, and maybe even unmasked, no, uh, can lead to higher surges. No? So these are Translation, January 9, Santo Nino, I think 16, and Chinese New Year, February 1. No? So we have to be able to tell people to avoid these events. No? Then because of the very fast transmission of Omicron, we need wider spread use of antigen tests. No? Even the cheaper ones are about 300 to 400. No? So people have to be able to access this. No? Um, and then to preserve our health system, our hospitals, no? Encourage home care of mild cases. There are also a couple of outpatient medicines that are available now for people at risk. No? This can be administered on an outpatient basis no? To prevent hospitalization. No? These have to be made more affordable no? When they enter the country. And finally, we need better communication no? To change the public's behavior in terms of crowding, physical distancing, wearing of masks, no? And attending these super spreader events. No? Next slide, please. Um, so, although we still don't have widespread sequencing no, to find out what proportion of our cases are Omicron. No? The rapid rise in cases no, looks like the signature of Omicron. No? Omicron doubles every 2 days, no? And this is what's happening. So what's been causing this? No? The SWS had a survey early in December, and 46% of the respondents said that they intend to celebrate Christmas with family and friends who are outside of their household, no, meaning outside of their bubble, no. And looking at the curve, no, I think they actually did that, no. And then we had imported infections, no, about 440,000. There were 140,000 arrivals, no, last December alone, no. Then we have the Omicron variant, which has a very short incubation period, no. So it can become infectious in 3 days, no, rather than the 5 days no, of Delta or the original variant. Then we have reports of quarantine being very loose, no. People not staying the whole 14 days or during their quarantine, no, exiting no, to purchase groceries, no, and going back, no. And then with regards to our vaccination program, no, we need to protect the elderly no, and the unvaccinated. No. Next slide, please. So how do we bring the surge under control? No? So we have to look at these three super spreader events that are coming up. No? And uh, negotiate no, with church authorities no, to cancel them. No? For the Chinese New Year, also encourage other ways of celebrating it without mixing with other households no, or with friends. Um, for antigen test kits, no, we have to make this available, no, because even at 400 pesos, no, it's still out of the reach, no, out of the, it's still unaffordable, no, to a lot of, to the majority of Filipinos, no. Uh, for the antiviral pills, no, we have to make sure that they're affordable, no, bring them under price control. No? For the mild cases, no, encourage them to isolate at home, no, and have their medical needs attended to by telemedicine. And finally, for our vaccination program, no, uh, just like the successful NVD that we had last year, where we vaccinated 3 million in a day, um, I think we can vaccinate all the elderly in just a few days, no? Because there are only about 2.8 million of them, no? If we vaccinate this segment of the population, we can actually prevent 80% no, of the hospitalizations, no? uh, and and uh, and reduce the strain no, on our health system. Uh, Next slide, please. So this slide shows the distribution of vaccine supply, no, in terms of number of doses per capita. No? So it shows that NCR has received the most number of doses per capita. No? And most of the other regions that are above the national average are from Luzon. No? Visayas and Mindanao no, have received less. No? Um, the best way to the best use of vaccination no, to in a surge no, is to administer the vaccines before the surge. No? And we're fortunate that the current surge has not reached no, outside of NCR and Calabarzon. No? So we still have time no, to raise the vaccination levels no, of these regions. Next slide. This is an SWS survey. It says that about 30% of people say that there are no vaccination sites in this area. No? So once we get the supply to the regions, provinces, and municipalities, we have to make sure that sites are available no? near where they live. No? The rule of thumb is people will access services if they're within 30 minutes travel no, to that service. Next slide. In terms of vaccine confidence, no, although we've increased vaccine confidence by several magnitude no, over a few months, no, there's still some gaps. No? So, for example, people with fewer years of schooling, no, less than a high school education, no, still have a high level of vaccine hesitancy. Likewise, no, in Visayas and Mindanao, no, their vaccine confidence is much lower no, than the other areas. No? So we have to focus and tailor no, our health communication no, to certain demographics no, and certain cultures no, and dialects. Next slide. This is the vaccine coverage for the elderly. So the national level is on the left side, no, the maroon bar, no. So a lot of regions are below that national level, no, especially Visayas and Mindanao, no. So we have to bring those regions up as high as possible, no, as much as possible, 100% coverage, no, so that we can protect the elderly and prevent deaths and hospitalizations, no. So I was happy to hear that NCR is going to have a vaccination day for the elderly. No, I think this will top up no, the vaccination, the elderly vaccination in NCR. No, So I hope that can be replicated also in other regions. No? For the elderly, the problem is not supply. No? The problem is really vaccine hesitancy. No? So we need to do some social preparation first, no? Raise their trust in the vaccines, no? Raise their trust in the vaccinators and um, in the services that are provided, no? So that they will come, no? When we offer these vaccines. Next slide. Uh, and finally, so this slide, what this slide shows is um, the priority for vaccination should be people who don't have the primary series yet, no, because vaccinating somebody who is unvaccinated is 5 times more effective, no, than adding a booster to somebody who's already vaccinated, no, because these people, even if their immunity is depressed with Omicron, no, still have some immunity, no, unlike the vaccinated who have nothing. Next slide. So just to summarize, no, we need more efficient vaccination. We need to avoid the super spreader events, no. And so, Mr. President, this is the answer to your question. No? We have to avoid these super spreader events, no, especially with Omicron, no, because it's highly more transmissible, no. Although it is said that it's less severe, it's milder, no. Only the hospitalization is reduced, no, by 1/3, no. However, it's 4 times more transmissible, no. So the net effect is that hospitalization will increase by 1/3, no, because of the higher number of cases. So we need more antigen tests, no, to be accessible to the community, to teach people home care of mild cases, no, and make outpatient medicines more affordable, you know. And of course, no, better communication to change the public's behavior. Thank you, Mr. President.
Uh, are you through with your presentation, Dr. Wong?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. Itong ano mo, yung second sa slide mo sa graphics, meron kalagay doon na which has to be avoided or should not take place or really for government to insist itong mga super spreader kagaya ng I'd like maybe the priests or the bishops are listening. The government does not impose the rules now. It does not really it does not have the character of an imposition, but rather a request from government for everybody to follow the guidelines set to prevent the widespread again of the super spreader that they have mentioned, Dr. Wong. I am referring now to itong super spreader na let me just cite you. The Metro Manila Roman Catholics, you must understand that this is really not intrude into your activities. But ang Roman Catholic kasi every year nagkakaroon ng prosesyon na Black Nazarene. And sometimes yung mga attendees ng pumunta doon would reach a million mark or even plus. Itong prosesyon na to, it's a very important event for the Roman Catholic Church. Now, I have to appeal to them for their understanding and to really look at it in the broader context of our liability also to the people if we do not act correctly or fail to come up with measures to protect public interest and public health. You know, the ministant functions of government are for government to come up with measures that would protect all kinds of sa the scope of governance is you have to come up with measures of to protect public health, public safety, public order, the public the general welfare of the people. So I I apologize in advance, and I beg your full understanding of what we have discussed every talk to the people. We have stressed that our job is really to come up with critical decisions to protect public health and public safety. Kung nakinig ang Roman Catholic Church, I am now appealing to you to forgo and cancel all physical gatherings, including the procession and the celebration of Mass sa church. Because marami yan sila. There are millions of devotees there. And you cannot just be complacent about the transmission of the disease. Sana maintindihan ako ng Roman Catholic that all gatherings are not allowed. Never mind about power of government. This is just an appeal to the hierarchy of the church to look at it on a broader understanding that it would really be a super spreader as sinabi ni Dr. Wong. Kaya mapipilitan ako na maghingi ng tulong sa lahat ng konektado sa church, especially in the governance of the region. We will siguro send somebody to bring the letter, a formal letter. But I no, in advance, I apologize for this, but I have to do it because I have to do it. Wala akong magawa. That is the advice from you and the government and all doctors, actually, I suppose. This is not a conjecture, but most of the doctors that I have talked, except yung mga ayaw rin magpabakuna, they are a different kind of tribe. Ewan ko kung anong tribo nila. Basta may mga doktor na ayaw. Huwag kayong makinig doon. Makinig kayo sa gobyerno kasi ang gobyerno nakikinig rin sa doktor. Na ngayon, kung magpayabangan tayo sinong magandang doktor, hindi panahon yan. Then we cannot protect public interest and public safety. So, sana maintindihan ng you have to forgo with the procession sa Black Nazarene, including sa church. Kasi marami yung devotees, I said, and if you deprive them of the procession, they might want to go there to just pray to the Black Nazarene. Eh ako man, I said, I believe in God. Walang problema yan. But I have to do things which I hate to do. As I said, pero kailangan gawin ko bakit trabaho ko. And this is not my decision. This is called C-U-L-L-D, called from the so many views and opinions from several doctors. Importante na si Secretary Duque would agree to na so kasi kung magsabi siya na optional yan, medyo may problema na ang gobyerno. And governance really starts from dito because we belong to the executive department. We execute laws. Ang batas sa Congress yan. Pag-implement or execute the laws that they have legislated belongs now to the executive department. Kaya tawag executive because you have to execute the laws that are passed by Congress. Garon para maintindihan ninyo. Just a few minutes ago, the Secretary of Justice binasa niya yung mga pertinent kaya yung gray area tawag naman yan, gray areas kagaya nung sa to discipline or to prevent a guy. Pero okay na yan ngayon because Secretary Anyo said they had already planned before I arrived. Galing na rin ako sa probinsya. Nagplano na sila kung anong gawin. So I appreciate their zeal sa trabaho nila. So yan ang mga if there is somebody to blame actually, it's the Omicron itself. Doon tayo magalit dyan sa wala man tayong except for magagalit lang kami na kagaya niyang ayaw magpabakuna tapos you are known or you have that reputation generated by your refusal for the vaccine and that is known in the neighborhood or in the municipality. Tapos you are reported by the barangay captain na hindi nagpabakuna yan. So the barangay captain has to verify and validate the report at kayo ang first line of sa defense, lalo na sa enforcement of the laws because the barangay captains really are persons in authority. Sila mismo. Hindi pa nga yung mga lahat ng pulis, due respect to, they are called agents of a person in authority. Sa linya namin, sa taas, pero sa baba, wala na. Pero itong barangay, kanila yan. So, barangay captains, you are put on notice and the order for you to find out the persons who are not compliant with the laws or the refusal to have the vaccines. You can actually prevent them from leaving the house. And if they refuse, because they are persons in authority, you can just insist and arrest him. Kung may pulis na lang ang utusan ninyo. Pero pag walang pulis, as a person in authority, you can now use reasonable force for him not to continue with this jaywalking sa daan kasi you pose a danger to the society. And kung maglaban ka at napukpok ka ng police o barangay captain, and if that is really the issue, whether or not you obey the law, tapos lumabang ka, then it's kailangan, because, remember, this is when you are placed under arrest, marami lang lang to. Kaya yung iba lumalaban kung ganon. Kaya punta noon sa bar, arestado kayo na. Nag-inom lang kami dito. Pera naman namin to . So you are now arrested. If you are arrested, the duty of the police is to inform you that you have committed a crime and that you have to obey government by going with him to the station. At doon, book ka for whatever act that you have done that's illegal, tapos laglagay ka sa prisuhan. Yun. Ngayon, kung kailangan na ito tandaan ninyo, para maintindihan ng lahat kung bakit minsan nakikita ninyo nagbugbog yung pulis at talagang nagagrapple, ito ang tandaan ninyo. Hindi yan sabihin ninyo police brutality. Kasi kung ayaw ninyo magpa-aresto, then the police is negligent of his duty to place the offender or the culprit under his control. Kaya pag inaresto mong tao, tapos sabihin ng police, sumama ka sa akin sa istasyon or the barangay captain. You come, we should go to the barangay hall for you to be investigated. Pag ayaw mo, the arrest is, the order of arrest is, you are placed under authority. And yung offender is, as a citizen, you are under order to submit peacefully. Magsabi ang police ito, arestado ka. Pwede bang sumama ka sa istasyon? At pag ayaw, then the police is allowed to use kapitan reasonable force. What is the kind of force? Well, commensurate of what force is also being employed by the person in authority. So dadalhin ka doon sa istasyon, hawakan ka. Pagka lumaban ka, kaya may batuta yung pulis talagang paluin ka. Yung ako naman, sabi ko, paluin lang sa paa. Lalo na yung mga lasing. Bakit? Pera mo ba itong, ganun yan walang pulis-pulis dito kasi amin itong ininom namin. Sino ba yung pulis dyan? Si Carlos, hindi ko kilala yan. Ganon yan may connection ako. Kilala ko si General itong si Major kilala ko si Congressman tapos lumaban, he will have to use reasonable force. Yung reasonable lang to maybe disable you to resist, because once you resist the arrest, you are now also committing a crime of resisting arrest. And if you hurt or you put up a good fight, tapos na in the person, the agent of a person in authorities, the police, the military, ikaw ang kawawa. May kaso ka na, patros lumaban ka pa. Yung iba, hinihila talaga. Sa minsan, hinahampas yung paa o ano, pagka sumama ka. Now, pagdating doon sa istasyon, huwag mo sabihin na pinalo ng pulis yan. Hindi ikaw yung hindi sumama. The duty of a citizen is when the police announces authority, you have to, guys, keep your cool and do not argue. Total pagdating doon sa pag imbestiga ka na at nakulong ka, and if you find a ground to file or sue the police, you can always do that. At itong tinasabi ko ngayon, ito ang hindi naintindihan ng human rights. Lalo ng mga bata. Pag ang bata ay inuli ng talagang mag-grapple sa iyo. I have seen that many times. Ngayon naman, yung pulis na nakikita nila na parang nagbabakbakan at binatuta yung tao, sigurado yan, lumaban. Kasi kung walang resistance, if there is no violent resistance, there is no reason at all for the police to inflict. It only becomes a sin pagka ayaw mong sumama kasi ang order sa police, saan niya dalhin? Alang-alang sa restaurant. When you are arrested, talagang dalhin ka sa, you cannot bring him to a restaurant and should be brought to the police station for documentation and investigation. And kung if you are detained, then you start to look for a lawyer. Kasi pag hindi, minsan may preliminary investigation na summary, or not really summary, what nandyan na, lalo na yung itong people that are arrested in connection with crimes. Pag inaresto ka ng pulis, diretso ka na, dalhin ka sa estasyon at maghingian sila ng preliminary investigation summary. You will be investigated right there and then, and the fiscal now will decide. Pag sinabi siyang i-file ko yung kaso, you remain in this time inside the jail. Ganon ang takbo ng maraming hindi kasi nakakaintindi. Kala nila kung kita nila yung pulis nakipagdumugan dyan, because his duty is to bring you under the authority of government and bring you to the police station. Kaya marami dyan ang hindi nakaintindi, lumalaban. Bakit mo ako dalhin na maghanap pa ako ng abogado? Well, I'm sorry, but that is not the law. You can call your lawyer if you have the cell phone, but you have also to honor the authority of government and surrender and go with the police to the station. But nobody would prevent you from calling somebody. You can call your family, your father. Yan ang tandaan ninyo yan, ha? Kasi maraming hindi nakaintindi talaga ng, alam ko, kawawa ang pulis eh. Kasi yung mga bata, may isang senador, Pangilinan. Noon, below 8, no criminal liability yan. Below 9 rather. I'm sorry, below 9. Above 9, under 12, tignan ng fiscal o if there is really malice or a violent character. Noon, 12 hanggang 16, apply na yung law. Pero usually, yung bata talagang nire-release. Here comes Pangilinan. You know what the guy did? Yung problema natin ngayon. Yung mga hold-upper na, yun yung nakikita ninyo noon na sa Dewey Boulevard. Nakikita ninyo nag-snatch takbo dito, takbo doon, nakukuha sa camera. And do you know, I said, why they are so bold to do that, daring? Because they have been previously, sa experience nila, under the Pangilinan law. Hindi ka makulong. Kung yung 15 years old, papasok ka ng bahay, sasaksakin ka, patayin ka, tapos kunin mo yung kinuha yung pera. Pagdating doon sa stasyon, sabihin ng pulis, report ng recorded, go where you want. That increase the number of crime tenfold. Fiscal na ako noon. Sabi ko, napakagagong. And the Congress that went along with it. Yung mga abogado, tanungin ko siya, buhay pa man kayo. Yung members of the Congress, hindi ba ninyo binasa ng gusto yan? Kaya doon nagsimula ang pulis na magsabi, minor yan, huwag yan. Hindi yan. Kaya lumalaban. Even if it's a minor, and it's a grievous offense, dadalhin talaga sa estasyon yan for recording. Kasi may complainant eh. Hindi mo pwedeng bitawan dyan na basta-basta palakarin mo lang. Even if they are minors, but even if there is a Pangilinan law. Actually, wag kayong bumoto. Ang dalawa lang yan. Gordon pati Pangilinan. Matagal na yan dyan sa Senado. Tanggalin ninyo yan. Kaya yan talaga ang mga, ito siguro, pareho lang utak. Ito si Pangilinan, talagang hindi niya ginamit yung utak niya. Nag-seminar sa Harvard, paano yan? Pagbalik, American law na. Ang sa American law, the minors are not released back to the streets. There is a halfway house where they are detained there until a judge would decide na sinunod niya ang batas ng Amerikano, wala man tayong halfway house. So anong ginawa? Dito, pag naaresto, they are brought to the DSWD. Because, galit ako Galit ako kay Pangilinan, actually. Hindi galit na Hindi galit na ganoon talaga ako pag nasanay, mayor. Yung helpless. Helpless ang public. Helpless ang gobyerno. It's actually catch-22. Pag inaresto mo ang pulis, ang ikulong niya, ang pulis mo, ang karamihan dyan, actually ganito. Alam mo bakit ang pulis hesitant? Allow me this time to give you some inner thoughts sa gobyerno. Ang pulis, pagka sinabi minor, hindi na pupunta yan. Kasi yun ang pulis, sinong sinong nag-hold up? Kasi ilang taon yun? 13, 14. Wala yan. Arestuhin na. They cannot even force the child to bring to the station. Kaya lumaki yan, marami yan sila. Yung nakikita mo noon hanggang ngayon, yung kinukunan ng TV na naki-snatch tapos tumatakbo. Yun ang dahilan dyan. Kung mayroon man alam mo bakit sa totoo lang. Hindi ko talaga naintindihan. Mayor ako noon, I have criticized Pangilinan almost, talagang nagmumura na rin ako kasi galit ako. Okay na sana yung below 9, wala talaga yan. Baski anong gawin man, baski sunugin ka niyan, okay lang yan. Hindi mo talaga above 9, below 12, tignan nilang kung may malis ba. Gaya ng rape, 12 years old o acts of lasciviousness. Pero yung petty crime na nakaw-nakaw dyan, ako nung fiscal ako, dinidismiss ko. Kasi, nakaw-nakaw lang, nakaw ng ano. Pero nung yung mga above 12, below 16, may indeterminate sentence, Lute. Nagtitimpla kami. Para i-recommenda namin. Pero ito, haros. Pagdating sa Pangilinan Law, below 18. 17 years old, patayin nila 16, 17. Pasukin ka sa bahay, saksakin kayong lahat. Kunin yung pera ninyo. Babay. Ganon yan. Kasi kaya mga rape, kita mo yung mga bata. Kahay sa drugs. Let me, it's a new year. Let me dwell dito from the standpoint of the executive department. Yan ang, ngayon, sinong pinapadala ng droga? Itong human rights na itong makinig kayo. Sinong runner nila sa droga? Mga bata. Bigay sa kanila, sabihin niya, ibigay mo sa tao doon nakatindig. In the process, pag nahuli na interdict, kasi may nag-report, o alam na ng nakuha yung shabu. So, pagdating nung ilang taong ka, 16, umuwi ka na. Alam mo, ang sindikato niyan, magdala ng photostatic copy ang itong mga runner nila. Pag-aristo ng police, yung birth certificate ko, tignan mo.
Thank you.
Ganon kalala ang ginawa ni Pangilinan. Now is as good as any other time to talk about it. It affects our safety, our interest, the safety of our children. Kaya nag-hit-hit na yan. Ang bayad niyan, sige, bigyan ka. Ito, mag-hit-hit ka. Tapos i-deliver mo yan dyan sa mga bahay na yan. Yan nagkalala yung problema. Buti sa Davao kasi may program ako every Sunday. I talk to the people. I communicate with you, all Filipinos. Na ganun ang sitwasyon. Ang naglalaro dyan, mga kriminal, pati ang mga bata ginagawang kriminal at binibigay so that may craving ang bata, the trabaho niya is the career. Kaya ako galit talaga sa droga. Yung ICC, sabihin ko sa kanila, galit talaga ako sa droga. Yan ang statement ko. Galit talaga. Huwag mo ako as mayor and as president, do not about. Do not. Kasi makita mo na, ayan, kita mo ba yung putulan ng ulo ng mga gago? Iuwi siya, away sila, putulan ng ulo yung asawa. Yung mga ganon. Yung bata dyan sa Makati na tinali dyan it was spread like a chicken, pinatay. Yung mga rape kasi pagka yung nagdodroga ka, lumalabas yung animal instinct mo, not the human instinct, but animal instinct na takes over the mind. Kaya pag ka, makikita mo rape, patay. Trial tayo. Pero ako, I'm a Filipino. If I go to jail, I go to believe it. Filipino ako eh. If there is somebody who would try me, it should be judge who is a Filipino because I'm a Filipino. Kung may prosecutor man mag-prosecute sa akin, it should be the fiscal because I am a Filipino. Putang ina, bakit ako magharap ng mga puti? Kaya ako hindi yan sinuplado. Makulong ako makulong, okay lang, basta Filipino judge. Bakit ako magharap dyan sa mga puti? O sa Europe, sinurte ka. Tapos makulong ka doon sa... Di ako Kaya I do not recognize the ICC. At saka yung batas na ICC, never yan naging batas. That's what I'm telling them. And itong mga kandidato na ito, sabi na they will revive. Go ahead. Be my guest. Because ang requirement kasi ng treaty, ginawa yan sa Congress. So Congress, depende kung sinong gustong gumawa. The idea of a congressman or senator or an idea coming from the Justice Department or whatever, yan. They legislate. Then we enforce. Kaya ako, mayor noon, nakita ko yung ano nang pinaggagawa ng sabi ng mga pero yan, in front of the nation, I tell you, never ako nag-utos ng pumatay ng bata pati babae. Pero sabihin ninyo ngayon, ilang pulis na ang namatay na lumaban ng mga durugista? It should be an interesting question to ask the human rights. Bakit? Ilang pulis na? Ilan na ang asawa na biyuda na? Because of drugs. Ilan na yung mga bata ngayon na wala na tatay at pulis namatay? Because of drugs. Enforcement. Buti sana kung sabi mo na ito lumalaban talaga. Sinasabi ko na sa kanila, ang durugista may armas yan. Bantay kayo, sinasabi ko sa mga pulis. Again and again, bantay kayo, kaya hindi yan magpahuli ng... That's why we have this disorder in this country. Ano na presidente ako, sabi nila, I reduce crime by almost 40%. Or sabi sa 60 ba? The statistics are there. Ayaw ko magyabang. I do not want to pull my own chair. Hindi ko na kailangan yan. I have all the accolades and applause to last me a lifetime. Pakana ko lang yung magtakbo akong presidente para we were trying to politika lang yun. Pero ayaw ko na, actually ayaw ko na. Tapos na ako. Ayaw ko na talaga. Pero yan ang sabi ko. I will never apologize for the death of those bastards. Patayin mo ako, kulungin mo ako. I will never apologize ito. Yan ang pangako. Di ba ang pangako ko na if you cared to, ano ang pangako ko? Law and order. Drugs, sabi ko, mag-focus ako sa drugs. Yan ang sinisilip nila eh. Yun sa human rights. Yung 6 aliens na sabi ko sa kanila, do not do it in my city. You will never go out alive. Itong 6 aliens, lumaban, kasi nakaano ng baril na dalawa. So dalawa lang lumaban, pero nandoon sila sa nagtago sila sa isang, they crowded in one corner. They are, ang volume ng fire, two guys firing 45. Yun ang nangyari. So yan. Tapos, dinisplay ko yung katawan nila dyan sa highway. Tapos, human rights. Kasi daw, brutal na po. Anong brutal? What about their brutality to the children of this country? Kaya nga sinabi ko, I came out with it. And it is really true yesterday, and it is true when I step down. You destroy my country. You bring disorder and you destroy the lives of our children. I will kill you. I admit that. Sinabi ko yan. At sinabi ko sa pulis, do not be afraid ng kaso. I will back you up. But do it in accordance with law, and if you have to kill, mas gusto ko, mamatay na yung mga karamihan ngayon, nagkakapiyansa.